Hey there, everyone. I'm back again with another video, and this time I'm going to be talking about Code Name S.T.E.A.M. Lincoln versus Alien. That's the Japanese name, anyway. I honestly don't know if there is a subtitle on the U.S. version. Could be in the English translation. I don't know, but this game actually came out in Japan like 2 months after the North American release. So most of you have probably played this already if you were gonna play it at all. Um, but yeah, let's talk about Codename Steam because this was a game I was pretty hyped for. As a lot of you know, I'm not like a huge Nintendo fan, but Nintendo's as far as Nintendo's internal studios, intelligence systems, like I'll just get almost anything they make unless it's Paper Mario because but yeah, Codename Steam is a strategy game. Of course, it's a strategy game because almost pretty much everything good that Intelligent Systems makes is a strategy game, with a few exceptions, Cube of War, for example. But Codename Steam, as I said, it was pretty hyped for this game. I was waiting for it to come out. The more I heard about it, the more I started to like it. And the demo came out, and I didn't play it. I was just like, nah, I'm just gonna wait for the full game. I'm already excited by the characters. Um, I'm excited by the setting. I like the art style. I like pretty much everything about what I'd seen of the game. So I thought, oh, I don't need to play the demo. I'll just wait. So man, the kind of reactions people had to the demo actually weren't so great. Some people were saying, "Oh, it's good." Some for people saying, "I didn't like it," or whatever. But like all things, I don't listen to what people say about stuff for the most part. I just if I decide that I'm gonna play something, I buy it and I play it and decide if I'm gonna like it or not. So, Codename Steam is one of those things because the reactions for the reviews, for the North American reviews, were generally bad. I mean, some of them were really bad. Like I think this somebody gave this game a 2 out of 10 or something. Like I don't know, but there were a lot of complaints about this game, and so I went into it still expecting to, enjoy it because from all the way it was described, I thought, oh, well, it couldn't possibly be bad. I don't know how. I mean, I didn't um, pay close attention to the reviews. I mean, I read a few, but I didn't. I don't care what the review numbers say. So, I picked up the copy of this game at launch, and it wasn't too expensive. I think like Nintendo does this thing with the games that they publish in Japan. They like make them about $10 cheaper than all the other games, which is still like more expensive than North American cost for like any 3DS game. But in Japan, it's like good because like a normal game costs like $60 on the 3DS, and then like Nintendo will put out this one for 40, and you'll be like, "Well, I gotta get it." Um, so I picked it up at launch, and I played through it relatively quickly. Actually, it's not too long of a game. It's not too short or anything. It's not like a 5 hour game. I think it took me like around 20 hours to beat it, maybe. Um, and that includes like I was like pretty obsessive about getting all the gears in each stage. So like in each stage there's 3 gears you can get, which are like kind of special objective items to unlock weapons and things. So I would like restart stages if I would get to the end before I got to the all the gears. Like sometimes they're a little hard to find, so sometimes I would just get to the end and like leave a character at the end and search the stage with other characters, or I just straight out redo the stage later to get the 3 gears. So that's including all of that. It took about 20 hours, maybe. So yeah, let's talk about how the game is played, what it's like. Like I said, it's a strategy game. It's not a strategy RPG. It's just a strategy game. There's no character upgrades like there's no updates for. I mean, there's no leveling for the characters. They have different weapons, and they can all use the weapons. There's no like everybody has their own like one weapon that they use, and then there's like a secondary weapon that anybody can use. So each character has their own special attacks also that they can use in certain situations. Um, so there are 12 characters taking from various like kind of old literature. It's pretty interesting, or history, I guess, if you're counting Abraham Lincoln. But it's the characters are actually pretty interesting. It's one of the things that I really liked about the game was the characters because they took these kind of characters that I enjoy. Like, I really like that kind of Americana kind of folk tales like John Henry or something. I wish they had done more with that actually because they did put in John Henry in there. I wish they put in some other ones like a Paul Bunyan or something or Pecos Bill because they would have fit in the game. They would have fit really well. But you know you don't have those characters, but you do have people like Tom Sawyer and a couple of characters from The Wizard of Oz. You've got Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion. So more than just a couple there. um, you've got like characters from Peter Pan, characters from H.P. Lovecraft, which I'll get into when I talk about the story. It's pretty interesting. You've got a lot of variety in there for the characters, but they're all, you know, oh, you've got characters from Moby Dick, even. I'm thinking, like, you've got all these characters. You've got a lot of stuff going on in the game. These kind of literature characters that they all throw together in this kind of steampunk world. It's a really cool setting, and I think it works really well for the game. I really enjoyed the setting and the characters and how the story played out because I thought, like, it kind of combines a lot of things in a really interesting way. So, yeah, let's talk about the gameplay before we get really into the story because the story I want to talk about is it's kind of important. Um, the gameplay is a lot like something like Valkyria Chronicles, like a grid-based Valkyria Chronicles. I want to say. Um, if you haven't played Valkyria Chronicles, it's kind of you have like a certain amount of movement range. You have like in this game you have steam, and each slot of steam will allow you to move one square. And the steam is also used for attacking, so sometimes you'll be able to move like you can add it up. Like move 3 squares and shoot once, or don't move and shoot twice, or depending on the weapon too, because each some weapons are only one steam, so you could like move 10 squares and shoot twice with that weapon, depending on your steam totals and whatever. So it's done like in a way that you can freely move, but you're like freely moving within a square. So once you get into another square, you'll lose a steam. But if you're moving inside the square, it doesn't really matter. You don't lose steam. But yeah, it's not it's a pretty good system. It's a little the camera is a little weird sometimes. Like it's not incredibly easy sometimes to see what you're supposed to be looking at. I mean, you can't like go into like an overhead thing and see some kind of strategic view of the map. I mean, it makes sense. You can only kind of view from a character, which I mean, it makes sense. It's not. It just kind of um, takes away from the kind of strategy element of it. In Valkyria Chronicles, you could zoom out to see the entire map, to see all your characters at once. You can't really do that in this game, and it's not really necessary. You can't. You don't have like huge battle. None of the battles are huge. Like you have a max of 4 characters you can use at a time. It's not like you have 15 characters out. You need to see the whole map. You can generally get it. So even though it would have been nice, it's not totally necessary, and it also would have made it a lot, maybe taken away a bit from finding the items like the gears that I was mentioned earlier. That kind of stuff is would be ruined actually if you could just zoom out the map. So it's interesting. It's not a bad system. I know people complained about it, but I didn't find it to be like overly annoying or anything. It was all right. Um, there is a not a ton of enemy variety, but there's enough that it doesn't. I mean, the game isn't so long that you start to get tired of the enemies. There's enough enemies in the game, variety wise, and like they introduce new ones going on into the game that it doesn't feel bad at all. Like it doesn't feel, even though there's not like a huge variety. I mean, there's maybe I'm gonna just like throw out a number. It's probably about 10 enemies for the game. There might be more or less, but I'm just guessing. I mean, not including bosses, because the bosses are different, but I'm just normal enemies that you'll see in the game. But yeah, but even then, it doesn't feel bad. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's too few, and there's not enough of it to get tired of them. So that's good. Um, there's different types of weapons too. So like, depending on the character you're using, you have some interesting types of weapons. Sometimes you have like spray weapons that do a spray of the shots, or you have like area of effect weapons, or you have like weapons that can only that'll like emanate from the character. They'll come out and just like go forward until they hit something. Or you'll just have normal machine guns or pistols, or you have a kind of fist on a spring or whatever. That one's one also. And then you have like sub weapons that are similar, and you have like some kind of healing sub weapons too. And there's not really any set kind of character classes so much. Like each character has a kind of special ability, but you can give any character the healing thing, for example, and they can be your healer even if they're like normally meant to be an attacker from their main weapon. But and there's other like there's not just attacking characters. There's support characters too, whose weapons don't do damage, but they'll like recover steam on a character, or send out bait to attract characters. Those are pretty helpful characters actually in the game. So um, it's a pretty good system. It's not unbalanced in any way. I feel like you could probably get through the game using any mixture of the characters, and you'd be fine because you could switch around the sub weapons, and just they pretty much all work. Some are better for certain maps than others. Obviously, like usually when a character is introduced, you should probably use that introduced character on the map, and probably the rest of the level, because it'll be easier to use that character. There's probably like something where it'll give you an advantage to use that character. But generally, after you get all the characters, like you just use whoever you like, and that's what I did. I mean, I had a final team of like, um, I can't remember actually. Can't remember everybody's name. Um, the main guy, who Henry, and the who else was using the fox, who was a sniper, and the what was the I can't remember the name of the warrior queen who has the rocket launcher, and I was using oh man, this is the worst one to forget because it's the Lovecraft character. I want to say it's Charles Dexter Ward, but it might not be. It might be somebody else. Not important. Anyway, yeah, the characters are interesting, but you can make like your own party and be fine. I mean, I was for some of the game I was using like John Henry and Tom Sawyer a lot too, and I just switched it up partway through. So it doesn't really matter which characters you use. Just use who you like. What I want to say there is that it's balanced enough that it doesn't really matter. So let's talk about the difficulty. I know people will be interested in this. I found it to be pretty good. Um, it wasn't like incredibly difficult, but it wasn't easy either. So I think it was really well put together. Like I didn't find any stage where I was just like, this is really hard. But I did find stages where I was like getting pretty pretty low on members. Like people would sometimes like you'd end the stage with one character left or something, and that's like a good sign. It means it's like well balanced on the normal level. And after you beat a stage, you have the option to go back and play it with certain types of kind of bonus, or like bonus conditions that make it more difficult, or you can make it twice as difficult. So there is kind of like a hard mode for each stage. And I was playing those two for a bit, going back to each stage and doing the hard mode stages because it's fun. So generally, I think overall, it's not too difficult. It feels good to me. I felt like, yeah, you have to think about how you go through a stage. You got to think of the strategy of it, but um, if you do that, it's not bad. I don't. I guess people were complaining that this game was too difficult. I didn't see anybody complaining, but I might have, but I just forgot. But like somebody was telling me that like a lot of the main complaints was that this game was too difficult, and I think like I didn't see it. I don't think it was incredibly difficult. I thought it was really well balanced and really well put together in a way that I think anybody could beat it. But it might be more difficult for some, obviously, but it's not like the kind of thing where like you have to really be strategic and you have to really really think about each time you go to a stage like which characters you're going to use. It's balanced enough that like if you have a relatively good idea of how to tackle a stage, um you can just get through it. So I think like it's you know medium difficulty maybe, and generally fun. So that's mostly what I want to talk about. I just want to talk about the story here because I mentioned it in the Bloodborne impressions video that I played another game that, like, partway through suddenly became a Lovecraft story. That's this game because Code Name S.T.E.A.M. Like I mentioned, there is a Lovecraft character in it, and I wonder if it's um, what am I thinking here? I was thinking like, I wonder if the character's in the manual. There's no fucking manual. Um, the uh, this game like it starts out as like an alien invasion story, like aliens are invading Earth, and you have to fight off these aliens. Um, and then you like suddenly partway through you realize like, oh, these are cosmic horror aliens like Lovecraft, because suddenly like Lovecraft characters are showing up. A little Lovecraft character shows up, and then like one of the main things in the story is that you're searching for the Necronomicon. And the Necronomicon is actually the magic of the Necronomicon is the source of the Steam technology that everybody has in the game. It's pretty. It's like a weird twist. It's not a huge twist. I mean, like it's pretty much on the cover of the game. But um story wise it doesn't start out that way, so it feels like an XCOM kind of thing where like aliens are invading, but it's actually it turns into a Lovecraft story. And like there's very Lovecrafty. The end boss is pretty like Lovecraftian in that sense. There's lots of tentacles, but yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed the story actually because of the way it turns out. I mean, even the original like goofy story of the aliens invading, and it is kind of goofy. It's not like a horror story in any stretch of the imagination. It's lighthearted and the characters are all goofy and kind of fun and likable. And they have their moments. So it's a good kind of story. It's light yet still manages to reach out into the kind of cosmic horror type of situation. And there's a lot of stuff. If you've read a lot of Lovecraft stories, you'll recognize a lot of the story is like I want to say um, the the story you should read for this game if you want to get a lot of the references is probably at the Mountains of Madness, because there's a lot of stuff with the South Pole in that story and in this story, and it's similar um, to the types of aliens you'll see and stuff. So it makes sense for that story. But there's a few other ones, Call of Cthulhu specifically for the Necronomicon related stuff. So it's interesting. I thought like that was a really cool part of the story, and it really made me enjoy the story more than I probably would have had it just been a kind of goofier alien invasion story, like the aliens limp back to Mars or whatever. And it seems like almost like it could have gone that way. It could have been like they could have had John Carter show up for whatever reason. and it could have been Martians. Really could have done that, but it didn't, and I like the way it went. So yeah, it was good. Um, Overall, I would recommend this game. It's a fun strategy game, um, and there aren't a lot of strategy games on the 3DS. There's none like this, but there aren't even like a ton of like straight up strategy games. I'm not talking strategy RPGs because there are good strategy RPGs, but just straight up strategy games. There's not a lot of those. They tend to be recently. They tend to come out mostly on the PC. So if you're like into strategy games, and I am, it's just I don't have a good enough PC to run almost anything. So it's the kind of thing where I'm a bit hard up for strategy games. So like there I have to play older ones or hope that something comes out and something I can play. And this came out, and I'm glad for it. I'm glad that Intelligent Systems did this, and I'm glad that it came out. I'm not glad that it sold so poorly um, that I will never see another one. I'm almost positive that we'll never see another one like this from Nintendo. There's not going to be a Codename Steam 2. If there is, I would be really, really shocked because when this, I want to say, like, it didn't sell great in the US, but when it came out in Japan, like, it failed in the first week of sales, less than 3,000. I want to say it sold. It didn't even make it in the top 20 for the week, and the lowest one on there was like maybe 2,000 something. So it's definitely less than that. So maybe it could have sold less than 2,000. I don't really know. It did. We don't have any numbers, I guess, but man, it's a shame because it's such a good game, and yeah, I definitely recommend it. There is amiibo support, which I did not partake in, where you can use characters, the Fire Emblem amiibos with this game. Um, I don't really know why you would want to. You can, I guess, use Fire Emblem characters, but this is a shooting game. Fire Emblem characters, I think, use swords, which means you have to run up next to enemies, which is probably the worst idea you could have in this game. So unless they do a ton of damage for some reason, that's probably maybe okay. But yeah, I don't have a new 3DS. I don't plan on buying one. There's nothing I want to play that's new 3DS exclusive, and I'm never buying an amiibo. So yeah, I didn't test out the amiibo stuff. So if anybody actually did try it out, let me know how that is. Um, but yeah, that's about it. Codename Steam. Pick it up, buy it, and buy it new if you can. Maybe if enough people buy it, they'll make another one. But it seems really, really unlikely. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.